Hello everybody, it's your boy Jmulls of Jmulls Gaming, here to ask an extremely simple question. What are my first impressions of Persona 3 Reload? Persona 3 Reload is essentially the remake of the classic Persona 3. It has been met with a little bit of controversy, but overall and mostly a lot of hype and anticipation, also from me as well. Because, well, Persona 3 on the whole is an extremely old game with some dated game mechanics to it, and, well, Reload was looking to address a lot of those issues and just smooth things over while introducing some new scenes and events and completely redesigning the most controversial aspect of this game as well, Tartarus, the big dungeon that you crawl through in this dungeon crawler. Now, I played a little bit of this game on stream yesterday. I want to talk about my thoughts on the whole about the PC port and the games so far. I'm going to make a separate video about the combat as I've not really delved too far into that aspect so far. But let's begin with the state of the PC port. It's Atlas, it's bad. Now, why is it bad? And let's talk about what do we want to see out of a PC port. Because the funny thing when it comes to Atlas with their PC ports is they're generally pretty bad, but they run well. It's just they're going to limit you in terms of the options you have at your disposal. These are all just like kind of standard stuff like auto text, maintain fast forward, memory for tactics and your personas and all that, which is nice. You have inversion for the camera controls, camera auto-adjust, I think I'm going to turn that one off myself. Rotate minimap, I don't know why anyone would ever want that on. Now, why do I think the PC port is kind of rubbish? In a lot of ways it stems from this and the lack of options here. Realistically here, you don't have a lot of options at your disposal. So, I'm running on a 1070, I am not getting 120 frames out of this game. Reflections and shadow quality are going to be your two big indicators and the ways you can like fine-tune the performance for this game. You don't have things like FSR or DLSS, you don't have things here, but reflections are a massive chug on your PC's performance, so if you're rocking an older machine like I am, I'm only on a 1070, try setting this thing off. It's really fine in a lot of ways, and I can have this off and shadow quality on high and still maintain 60 to 70 frames per second from my last experiment here. And I haven't really noticed it dip below that, even at 200% rendering scale. Which, like I said, the game will run well, it just won't give you a lot of ways to tinker with it, you know? I'm running on 1440p as well, borderless window, I have VSync off, because why not? I'm not even reaching those frames anyways for VSync. And yeah, overall, the PC port for Persona games and from Atlas on the whole tend to be kind of, well, limiting. They don't give you the options menus that you come to expect a lot of the times when it comes to PC gaming. But it runs well, right? Like, the performance is mostly stable. It's like, okay. Now, when it comes to the actual game itself, what are the things that I've been really noticing and, in my opinion, are a massive standout? Well, let's talk about that. In my opinion, one of the biggest standouts for Persona 3 Reload is the new graphical overhaul and the artistic design that the game has at its disposal. I like the new aesthetic, and I like the new overall aesthetic and UI of Persona 3 Reload. I think some people may take issue with it because certain aspects of the UI, especially the social stats, are really simplistic and just kind of like devolve down to here's a circle with one color in it as like background. It's not like the most inspired, but I think most of it, when it all works together and flows together, introduces an interesting aesthetic for Persona 3 that I do appreciate and I do like. Now, what are the other aspects to this game that I think, hey, I am more of a fan of this than I thought I would end up being? For me, it's the graphical overhaul. The game looks pretty. It's not going to be like the best looking game on the market, but I also don't think a Persona game necessarily has to be. I think just updating the models and giving us beautiful lighting, which is what I believe they have given us, I think the lighting in this game is absolutely beautiful and stunning, really helps elevate a lot of these scenes and a lot of these locations to be really gorgeous and kind of like pull you in a lot of ways. I played Persona 3 on portable. I played the Persona 3 portable version. That was how I experienced the world of P3, which was very limiting because it's essentially a visual novel in a lot of ways. They don't give you a lot of agency to explore for your own. It's just kind of like one PNG you're drawing a cursor around on. But here you can actually explore these locations, and in a lot of ways I think that breathes a lot more life and depth into these locations that makes me want to navigate them and explore them. And they also have teased already certain like new aspects to the world that you can utilize at your disposal throughout the later aspects or sections of the game in new and interesting ways, and it makes me want to just continue to play the game. I also think a massive standout for me so far has been the voice acting on the whole. Now, I've heard from my chat that some of the voices are a little bit more hit or miss to others, like Akihiko being kind of off-putting. When you're trying to top Liam O'Brien, that's a hard thing to do. But honestly, I don't mind the deeper voice Akihiko has in Reload, and I think it kind of fits him being more like this mature kind of mentor to Junpei, Yukari, and Makoto for at least these early sections of Seeds. I think we'll really be able to tell how good and how high quality the voice acting is in later sections of P3 when we introduce more of those really emotional scenes. But I think the biggest standout for me so far, and the one I didn't expect to stand out for me as much as he has, is Junpei. He's probably my new favorite performance in the game. He, so far, has so much personality and character behind his performance, and in pretty much every line read, it sounds like the voice actor had so much fun recording it. And that really translates over for a character like Junpei, who's way more easygoing, especially in these earlier parts of P3. And that's something that I think does add to the game on the whole. Mitsuru's voice actress does an amazing job, like, replicating that character of Mitsuru. And I think some people may even have a hard time spotting the difference between the two. I can, but I think she does an amazing job of replicating that, like, identity of Mitsuru through her personality. Yukari's an interesting one, because my chat and I probably debated and talked about Yukari's voice actor the most, because in the original P3, or at least in Portable when I played, Yukari always had this, like, air of smugness, as someone in my chat kind of put it. Not as if she was, like, talking down, but as if she was always being, like, smug or sarcastic, or just, like, trying to be indirectly mean and rude. Sometimes, I never minded the character of Yukari myself, but I think the interpretation of Yukari in Reload is a really good one and an interesting twist, as I think even members of my chat from when I played the introduction were like, wow, Yukari is a way more likable character, and I think that goes to show you just how much of an impact a voice performance can have on a character. Because I think both interpretations of Yukari can work for the character, but I also think I don't mind seeing this new interpretation where she seems to be more polite in a way. Or just, not necessarily polite, just like less smug and like less looking down. She still has those lines where it still is Yukari. Like, I don't think the character itself is compromised. It's just like a different flavor of the character, if that makes sense. And I think it works for Reload, and I think it works for the character of Yukari. I think the cutscenes on the whole are really pretty and gorgeous to look at. I think my biggest critique when it comes to the cutscene so far will be the cutscene where Makoto awakens to his persona. And I talked about this in my Discord a while ago, but I think the main reason I have a critique for this scene is it feels like it was designed for the TikTok attention span, where in the original, in Fez, if you watch that cutscene, Makoto, they kind of draw it out, and they have this, like, heartbeat sound effect over it to, like, ramp up the tension, and, like, Makoto realizing, hey, in order to summon my persona, I have to shoot myself with this evoker. And he doesn't know, because he's never really seen it happen or work. He's operating on blind faith and just, like, instinct at this point. He has to shoot himself with this evoker, which is in the shape of a gun. So you have this, like, really tense moment, and you have this, like, heartbeat sound effect in the back of your head. It's far more quick and just kind of done. In Reload, I don't mind it, but I don't think it is as impactful or as tense as it was back in Fez. So I want to see if that is going to become a running theme for certain story moments throughout the game later on. I need to wait and see for that one, but even if that's a critique for me, it's not like a major one. Because I think the scene was still done in an interesting way, and I like the notion, or at least the way they did it with, like, I always forget the name of this kid, but the kid who's in, like, the prison outfit that, like, haunts Makoto from the very beginning. I like the way it was framed in that regard. So yeah, overall, I am really liking Persona 3 Reload. I think the PC port, like normal when it comes to Atlas, is kinda cruddy. I think the aesthetic of the entire game and like this new kind of watery art style and aesthetic that the game and the UI has on the whole really works for Reload, and I think makes it seem as if it is able to stand on its own. I can't wait to really dive into the game in the later sections to unravel all the new stuff they added to the game, but like so far when it comes to the voice acting, I am optimistic. I wouldn't even say cautiously optimistic, I'm just overall optimistic. I like the new interpretations or the new takes on these characters, and I think the new voice actor cast is doing a really good job so far. Of course, there's a lot more characters down the road for us to hear. There also seems to be a lot more voice acting in this game so far, and as someone who is streaming this game as well, I definitely appreciate that. Saves my voice, and I always tend to like more voice acting in my games. And while the PC port has, well, a lot to be desired, it kind of falls in line with a lot of Atlas ports, where it's just like, even on an old machine like myself on a 1070, it's still running well. Like, I haven't suffered any crashes, I haven't suffered any real noticeable dips for prolonged periods of time. And I feel like a lot of the performance for this game is tied up in the reflections, so if you are yourself suffering from low FPS or these dips, try turning off reflections and see how that works for you. It'll be interesting to see the state of Atlas PC ports down the road, as Atlas seems to continue to like cuddle up to Microsoft in ways, as well as a lot of these other like Japanese developers we've started to see in recent years. It'll be interesting to see if Atlas on the whole starts to take PC as a platform far more seriously, which I feel like they have the intent to, but we need to wait and see. I think the PC port is serviceable, it's just the options menu is really lackluster and lacking in options. But the game itself runs decently well and is pretty fun. And I imagine you can easily get 120 FPS if you have a stronger machine than I do, right? Like, I'm operating on 7 to 8-year-old hardware over here, right? I'm not expecting to get, like, max graphics at 120 frames here. But even on my machine, at 200% rendering scale, so long as I turn off reflections, I can get like 60 to 70 FPS rather consistently. I will say though, I have kind of noticed like the main menu and like the options menu kind of looks, at least to me, as if it runs at a lower frame rate, as if it's like 30 or something. I don't know what the deal with that is, or if my eyes are just like screwing with me. I don't think they are. And I don't mean like the animations, right, on the screen. I mean like navigating the actual thing. It's kind of weird, but like when you pick up on it, you'll kind of notice it. It could be an autistic thing they decided to invoke and go for, but it is kind of weird. But I will say, the game on my SSD runs like butter. Oh my god, this thing loads like instantaneously throughout a lot of these locations. It's really nice. The game saves like instantly. I know we live in like an era of SSDs, but every now and then, especially for like when you play these older games now on SSDs, it's just like, oh, thank god. You don't have to like wait around a long time for these things to load or whatever. I don't think I'll ever get over or get used to how fast SSDs can be. I don't think I ever will, and I don't really want to. It's always a nice little surprise. I will say though, by the way, when it comes to the graphical fidelity of the game looks like crap on anything other than 200% rendering scale. I will say that, like, before we wrap it up here. Like, if I knock this down to 100% for the rendering scale, it's as if you smeared Vaseline on the screen, or as if, like, all the pixels, like, expanded by, like, 5. The character models especially get really blurry and all that. And it's like weird, you know? Because I wouldn't expect that from just 100%. But when you go to the graphics and you just set that to 200%, it looks way better in my opinion. It looks way more crisp and sharp and clear. And that 100% was even on 144 p, right? So yeah, my recommendation would be to set it to 144p, duh, but also 200% rendering scale. I believe the default is 100%, just knocked it up to 200% if you notice the game to be a little bit too blurry for your interests, or for your takes. And if you're suffering from frame rate issues, try toggling the shadows, and the main one for me has been reflections. Just like turn that off if you don't want it, or you don't need it, or you just want more frames, and you should be good to go. The only other main issue I had with this game was when it first came out, it for some reason had a difficult time like signing me into my Microsoft account. Like, it took like 20 to 30 minutes of me just like constantly refreshing it to trying to get it to work. I had to like log out of my Microsoft account and log back in and all that. Eventually decided to work, but like, I don't know if that was just like launch issues with the game going online the second I was trying to do that. I don't know. I haven't had those issues since. The game takes like a little bit, like 30 seconds to boot up. But like outside of that, like those are kind of like minor things to me. What I would like to see in the future from Atlus is more of an investment in the options menu. Even though Persona, it's not going to be like the most graphically intensive game of all time, right? Like we're not expecting that from Persona. But just like a few more options here and there would be nice. I love a little bit more camera control as well to like be able to zoom out a little bit farther. Stuff like that. I don't know why they don't just let you like uncap the frame rate, by the way. They should really address that, in my opinion. I don't know why this game is capped to 120, but I'm not going to reach 120 on my machine anyway, so take from that what you will. Atlus ports being kind of mid, but they're functional, which kind of describe most of Atlus's ports. So more of the same in a lot of ways, but in terms of reload specifically, the game itself is really promising to me so far. And with that, I'll call the video there for the day and my first impressions for Persona 3 Reload and the PC port there for the day. Thank you all for tuning in. My pleasure for making the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe. And let me know in the comments down below how you have been enjoying Persona 3 Reload. Or if you want to dive into the game yourself. Or if not, tell me what game you've been playing lately. I would love to hear your thoughts, hear your opinions, and hear your perspectives. Stay safe, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and hit the bell icon to be notified when I upload and stream in the future. Stay safe, have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter and Twitch, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody, until we meet again.